Hi there, Kendra Tolbert here. I'm a registered dietitian and yoga teacher, and I specialize in women's health and fertility. And this video is an interview that I did with Nicola Salmon. If you're not familiar with Nicola, she is a fat positive fertility specialist. Actually, I said that wrong. She's an award-winning fat positive fertility specialist, and she's also the author of Fat and Fertile. This conversation was so incredibly refreshing to have. Throughout it, Nicola stressed the importance of weight neutral care. She talked about the benefits of weight neutral care when it comes to supporting people who are in larger bodies. The truth is, everyone deserves quality fertility care regardless of their body size, and they shouldn't have to wait until they're in a smaller body to receive that care. Not only shouldn't they have to, they don't have to. It is absolutely possible to get pregnant and have a healthy, happy pregnancy at any size. If you stick around to the very end, Nicola actually shares some really practical and important information that more people need access to if they are caring for someone who's in a larger body or if they are in a larger body and undergoing IVF, because there are some things that you can tweak in how treatment is done that may actually improve your chance of conceiving without micromanaging your body size, without focusing on shrinking your body size. So I could tell you all about it, or I could just let you watch the interview. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you watch it. Let's jump into this interview with Nicola Salmon. Thank you so much, Nicola, for meeting with me today, for chatting with me. I'm so excited to get into this conversation.
Oh, me too. I'm so honored that you invited me on, and I can't wait to dive into this. So, yeah, me too. Super excited.
I would love it if you would introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name's Nicola Salmon, pronouns she and her. I describe myself as a fat positive fertility specialist, which is a totally made up title, but basically means that I support folks who are in bigger bodies that want to get pregnant, and we don't go anywhere near diets, weight loss, anything like that. So, yeah, it's quite a unique job, one that not many people do. But yeah, I adore the work that I do. I am so honored to work with the people that I work with. And yeah, excited to talk about it.
Yay! I'm so excited that you do this work. I don't remember how I came across your work. I'm sure it was maybe someone else shared your stuff over on Instagram, and I was like, who is this delightful human who is doing such important work? I need to know what she's up to. I'm so grateful to whoever it was that shared your work with me because it's needed. You're right, not enough
So
people
needed.
do it,
So
but it's
needed.
definitely needed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, like, I feel like our spaces have passed and our paths have crossed in so many different ways over the years. But yeah, this is our first proper conversation, so I'm super, super excited.
So let's dive into our list of questions. So, my first question for you is, what is the prevailing attitude or belief about weight and how it affects fertility? And then tell me the truth about it.
So the truth is very different. So most folks believe, and that includes doctors, healthcare professionals, Joe Public on the street, everyone believes that fat is a problem that needs to be fixed. And that's not just in the fertility world, that is in every corner of the healthcare system. That fat people are lazy, are unmotivated, don't take care of themselves, are horrible, like horrible people. Like obviously for so many folks in bigger bodies, fat has been used as a weapon in the past. It's a word that I have reclaimed as a completely neutral word about my own body that just means, yeah, I'm fat in the same way we describe someone as tall or short. It is just a totally neutral word. But yeah, like fat people have had a hard time in the world that we live in, especially at the moment with all of the medications that are being promoted to encourage folks to make their bodies smaller. It is a wild time to be a fat person. And yeah, the truth of the matter is that there is a lot of other stuff going on when it comes to fat people's health and why we see the things that we see in healthcare. So in fertility, doctors will often talk about lots of risks associated with pregnancy. And the reality of what's going on is it's nothing to do with fat people's bodies and everything to do with how fat people are treated within healthcare, society. Like, of course, if you tell someone that they are going to have horrific side effects, that they are going to get gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, pregnancy loss, of course their blood pressure is going to increase, their stress levels are going to increase. Their whole experience of that time is going to be harder because of what you're telling them and what society has conditioned them to believe. So there's a lot of unlearning that the healthcare system needs to do as a whole. But the one thing that I want folks to take away is that it is a systemic problem that fat people face when they're navigating fertility stuff. It is not your fault if you are in a bigger body and are navigating fertility in this way.
Yes, all of that. Absolutely. I could have listened to you talk about this and even more and talk about it all day. It's something I've been thinking a lot about. And there was something that you said earlier that made me remember it. It's this idea of like who gets to be well. So even
Mhm.
if someone in a larger body is having a perfectly healthy pregnancy, they're still being treated as if they're not.
Yeah.
They're still being told, like, well, this is what's going to happen. And so it's like they don't even get a chance to experience their actual health because there's this like made up idea of what their bodies must be actually going through, even when they have labs that are saying something different, even when we have research that says something different.
It's wild, right? Like, as somebody, as a fat person who went through pregnancy twice, I was labeled high risk both times, even though I totally had completely boring, ordinary pregnancies, nothing happened. Yet here I was with this label of high risk. And it's just like you said, it is medicalizing fatness when actually it was totally, nothing was happening and my body was doing exactly as it was supposed to.
Yeah, yeah. And we even have research that pretty much from what I've taken a look at that says like, hey, short-term weight loss does absolutely nothing to actually improve the likelihood that someone will conceive. Like we were
Mhm.
wrong about it. And
Yeah.
despite that research, it seems that people still hold on to the idea, even reproductive endocrinologists at times, that someone must lose weight to increase their chances of conceiving. And why do you think we hold on to it even in fields where we're very focused on being evidence based when the evidence doesn't back up what we're saying?
It's wild, isn't it? I mean, we all live in this bubble where we have this idea about what fatness and what thinness means, right? Like, thinness is something that we all should be pursuing, and this is like the goal of what health and what wellness is. Like, it is pervasive and it clouds people's judgment. So, doctors aren't immune, researchers aren't immune to this. Like, we all have this foundational belief that fat is bad. And almost use thinness as a currency to get through the world, right? Like the thinner you are, the more you are kind of likened to like what we like the thin ideal or the beauty ideal. Like it all feeds into this privilege that we hold around that. And I think it's really hard to let that paradigm go sometimes. Like if we've fed into that, like if you feel like you have like a morality around fitness or around the way that you eat, like we can make that mean something about ourselves and part of our identity. And that can be really hard to let go of, especially if you've like prescribed to that your whole life. So I think for a lot of people, letting that go is not something that they're willing to do. And they don't want to kind of look at that evidence and see, oh, actually, I might be wrong about that. Because as well, I think if you accept that this new evidence has come out and that actually, like you said, like weight loss doesn't improve outcomes, we know that fat folks do get pregnant. You have to also accept that you may have done harm in the past from the actions that you took. And that is a really understandably difficult thing for humans to do. So there's so many layers to it. And I think, we have to look at it with compassion for ourselves as well as the healthcare providers, but also we're not standing for systemic discrimination against fat people. Like it is absolutely not okay. And we need to do better.
I thank you for just having so much grace around it because it's very easy for me to just get like fired up and angry about
Mm,
it. But
absolutely.
yeah, so thank you for also reminding us that it's difficult to accept
Mm,
new information, especially when that new information isn't balanced
yeah.
by how many other people are saying something very different. So like you get this one new piece of information, but you've heard this other thing 20 times a day.
Yeah, your whole
So it's not
career,
going to
right?
matter.
Yeah, like
Exactly.
that's how you're taught. That's the whole system around you, and all of the people, all your peers, all of your professors, like everybody is saying the same thing. They're all singing from the same hymn sheet. So I think it's one of those things that you start off with a tiny snowball and it just has to build and build and build, right? And hopefully, the stuff that I do is adding to the snowball effect, that we will get there one day. But who knows if it will be in my lifetime? All you can do is keep, smashing away at that wall and hope one day it falls down.
Lovely, lovely. Now, are there any potential drawbacks for focusing on weight loss? I'm sure there are people who think that, even if losing weight doesn't improve people's chances of conceiving, like it's not harmful for people to
Mm.
focus on weight loss. We do it all the time. But are there actual drawbacks? Is there actual harm that can be done by focusing on weight loss
Yeah.
when it comes to fertility and maybe overall health too?
I think it's a really common misconception that it's just harmless. Like you said, that, going on a diet, trying to lose weight, like, what's the worst that can happen? It's no big deal. But actually, there is a lot of harm that can be done. Like, the first is that so often weight loss is short term. Even if you go on a very, kind of restrictive diet and then lose loads of weight, the likelihood is it will regain. So you'll rebound, and that gets you into this pattern of something called weight cycling, which is where your weight goes up and down over time, which if anybody listening out then has been under diet, I'm sure you've experienced this like roller coaster of weight loss and weight gain, and it's really normal. It is your body's biological like impetus to just keep you safe, keep your body safe. So that is what it does. It thinks, whoa, famine, like we're going to die. We need to focus all of our efforts and energy on finding food, which is why we get that increase of like focus around food. Like if you're being in any kind of restriction, your brain is like, oh my God, I need to find the maximum amount of calories I could possibly find right now and eat them all, because your body wants to stay alive. And so we know that restriction leads to binging. We know that there is that cycle. And then this is disrupting your relationship with food. For so many of us have disordered relationships with food, and that can easily go down to eating disorders, which we know is a really serious thing for folks to have to navigate and to experience. And yes, fat folks can get anorexia. Yes, fat people get eating disorders, and that is something again which is really largely dismissed within the healthcare professions. Like, for fat people, if you tell them that you are having anorexic symptoms, that will often be applauded, congratulated. Yes, you're doing the right thing. When actually that is a serious mental illness that can have really detrimental impacts on people. And we know within the fertility sector, you are much more likely to have an eating disorder if you're navigating fertility treatment. I think it's like 6 times more likely. It is a huge increase in the amount of people who are both experiencing eating disorders and navigating fertility stuff. So it's really important that fertility clinics understand that and don't just go around going, oh, go on a diet. Oh, try this new diet or try this diet. Like, even for people who are in smaller bodies, they're still recommending these quite extreme feeding patterns and eating patterns that are actually contributing to disordered relationships around food, which is really, really harmful. And like you say, like the research is now, and there's been some really good studies come out in the past few years that show that it has no impact. So it makes me so mad that we're doing something that we think is, oh, a bit harmless, and actually is having really serious impacts on people's mental health, their well-being, and potentially their physical health and their ability to conceive as well, because there are some studies that show very low calorie diets, like extreme forms of calorie restriction, can actually have a negative impact on fertility, which makes sense because if your body is going through some kind of famine, that is not the time to be getting pregnant because the resources are low. So, evolutionarily speaking, your body is doing what it's supposed to do. So it's wild to me that it's acceptable to just be throwing out diets willy-nilly.
Yeah, I think we've both made it pretty clear that we don't think it's acceptable. So, if we don't think that people should be focusing on weight loss, what should people be focusing on to optimize their fertility or prepare
Yeah.
themselves for pregnancy?
Absolutely. So I mean, for the first thing I always tell people is that you do not have to pursue health in order to be eligible to be a parent, right? Like, you do not have to prove yourself in any way in order to want to get pregnant, to have support getting pregnant, to do anything, right? You are born worthy, you are inherently worthy of being able to access that care and support, regardless of the world that we live in and whether that's available to you or not. Like, it's really important for me to say that you don't have to do anything or prove anything in order to be, to be able to be a parent. And we know so many people that they don't do anything and they're just pregnant straight away. And it's like, oh my gosh, like there's magic. How does this even happen? But it does, it happens all the time. But for folks who do want to do something or want to have some form of control or a way of, like supporting themselves and doing the best they can, because so many people want something tangible they can do, right? They want to feel like they're in control. They have something that they're doing to make them feel better and feel like they're taking those steps. The first thing I ask people is, are you eating enough? Like, I don't care what it is you're eating. I want to know you're eating enough, because there's a real misconception, especially for fat people who've dieted their whole lives, of what enough is. And so many of us are not eating enough. So I want their bodies to have that indicator that, yes, it is safe. Yes, there is enough food. Yes, you have enough resources in order to get pregnant. The second thing I ask people is like, are you resting enough? How good quality is your sleep? Are you taking that time for yourself? Do you have boundaries around work? How often you're checking your work emails? Are you carving out time to let your body know that it's okay to exhale? It's okay to come down from that like chronic stresses that we have going on in our lives. And then if it feels appropriate and useful, like, are there ways that you can move your body that feel good and feel useful? Because again, for fat people, we can have really challenging relationships with movement. And that is, traumatic experiences from our past that have led us to believe that we aren't safe in spaces where we move our bodies. We don't get access to clothes so that we can exercise comfortably. There are so many things that are blocking our relationships with movement. And movement can be amazing for fertility, but not if it comes at the expense of your own mental health. So it's around finding that balance of, is there something that feels good, that feels joyful, or just feels supportive in a way that you can move your body? So yeah, basic things, and they can sound so simple, but they can be so profound at the same time.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I really appreciated that you focused on ways really for people to fill their cups, right? Like
Hmm.
it feels like it's less about, is this good for my fertility? And it's more like, is this good for me? Is this how I want to treat myself? Is this something that I want to prioritize because I matter and this is how I'm choosing to care for
Mm.
myself?
And
I
I
love
think
that.
putting your needs first should be the most important thing, because ultimately you have to live through this, right? This is your life. Like we have now, we don't know what will happen in the future. So by ensuring that you're prioritizing yourself and your own needs, like I hope that all the people that I work with are improving their nows so that anything that happens in the future is then, wonderful and amazing, but they're enjoying living now rather than just being in that eternal pause of, well, I'm just waiting to get pregnant and then my life will begin.
I love that. Thank you for that. So I'm wondering, what should someone do if, they've accepted that their weight is not something that they need to hyper focus on, that they can just simply care for themselves and live their lives as fully as possible, and that's enough, and they're already enough. But they're bumping into the healthcare industry that is
Mhm.
saying, hey, you can't access the care you need
Yeah.
until you're a certain weight. What should they do in that case?
And it's a shitty situation. Sorry, can I?
Please.
I should have checked first. It is an awful situation for people to be in because they are stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Like there's this massive system, healthcare system here that firmly believes and will not support them until they reach a completely arbitrary BMI goal. And then there is their own life of like, I don't want to put myself through another diet, or I cannot lose any more weight because my body is just like, no, we cannot do this anymore. And but at the same time, you want to grow your family and you want to fulfill that dream of, of getting pregnant. And so it's finding that best way to navigate that. And there's lots of different ways that we can do that in terms of whether that's learning how to advocate for ourselves with doctors that we have or healthcare professionals we have. And that is a skill. We're not really born with it. We don't often get taught it. It makes sense in a patriarchal society to keep the women down and the people who are born with ovaries down. So we are not taught how to advocate, and that is the skill that we need to learn and we need to practice over and over and over again to get better at. So that is an option in terms of like taking research in with you. And this is something I provide lots of my clients is like research summaries they can go in and talk confidently to their doctors about. or practicing scripts or having conversations with safe people so they can like build up those skills. It could be like looking for different providers. So on my website, I have like a free clinic guide of all other fat recommendations that people have sent me over the years so that you can get a head start in looking for clinics that might support you without you having to have these really difficult conversations. It's just about knowing that you are absolutely worthy of good care and then using whatever tools and resources that you have to go out and find that wherever that may be. And it's not, we don't live in an ideal world. Like, ideally, everybody should have a local clinic where they can just drive half an hour to get the care that is evidence-based and respectful and supportive and know that they'll have a good team on their side. And it for it to be financially accessible as well. Like, financial privilege is such a huge part of this. Even in the UK, where we're supposed to have like the NHS, which free at point of contact, not for people with a BMI over 30. Like, there are those restrictions in place. So it is about doing what you can with the resources that you can, whether that is traveling a bit further to a different clinic, to get the care that you absolutely deserve, or whether it's advocating for yourself at your local clinic because you can't travel further or out, and this is the one that's covered by your insurance. Like, it's just really being able to do the best that you can with the resources that you can. And I think one of the best tools that you can give yourself through that process is finding a community that gets it and so that can help you and create a little safe bubble for you to come back to once you've had these hard conversations. There are some really great free resources out there online as well. I all the programs and things that I do always include a community element so that people can access that kind of support too, because I think it's so important. But yeah, I'm happy to share some of the free resources as well with you so that you can pop those in the notes if that's useful for other people who are trying to find that community.
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to link to all of your resources and any
Thank
additional
you.
free resources that you have. I remember looking at your Instagram account, and I think you shared a post about the length of needles being
Mhm.
different. I would love it if you could just share a little bit about how care might be different if you're in a
Yeah.
larger body once you do access the care that you deserve and need.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this, like, knowledge is power, right? When it comes to stuff like this, like, if you don't know to ask, then you don't know. And so for things like needle length, so for when you're going through IVF, like, often take lots of different hormones, and some of them go in your muscles, so they're called intramuscular. And obviously, because we have extra layers of fat and different body compositions, the shorter needles, which are often recommended, don't go to where they need to go, which means the medicines are less effective, which means the treatment's less effective. And of course, like, then if you're looking, oh, well, if you're looking at research and you're saying, well, these treatments aren't as effective in fat people, maybe it's because you're not designed those treatments for fat people and you're not giving them the medication appropriately. So I always recommend to people to, if they have a BMI above 30, I think, is to ask for longer needles. Other things that are really important to accommodate, if you're having your blood pressure checked, to make sure they've got the larger blood pressure cuffs, because so often they won't, or they'll just try and use the smaller one because maybe they don't know where it is. And then you'll get an inappropriate reading, and then they'll say you have high blood pressure, and it just can spiral from there. And actually, what's going on is they're just using the incorrect equipment for your body, which is not your body's fault. It is just, like, they're not using the appropriate equipment. Some other examples, gowns, something as really simple as having a gown that fits you when you're going through procedures. Often they won't have the right sized gown, so making sure that you ask beforehand if they have them. If not, ask if you can bring something in that you're going to be comfortable in. Um, because you deserve to have, a comfortable experience through this process and to have your needs met through that. Another really interesting one is ovulation predictor pee sticks and pregnancy pee sticks. Because of the way that our bodies are, often we'll have larger blood volumes, which means if we have the same level of hormone in a bigger blood volume, then the concentration goes down, which means that they're not as accurate. So sometimes people, and I've had so many people share their experiences on Instagram, they've done pregnancy tests, they know exactly when they ovulated, yet their pregnancy test wasn't positive until at least 2 or 3 weeks later. But we don't know this because nobody tells us this. And it's wild to me because these things, whilst it may sound like, oh, you just got your pregnancy test a bit later, actually that can have very real implications if you're going through an IVF cycle. Maybe you'll stop taking your medications, but actually you need to continue taking your medications. Maybe if you're accessing abortion care, you don't get it as quickly as you might need to, and that can be a real problem, especially in some states. Um, there's so many reasons it can really increase your anxiety levels if you're going through a stressful time with it and you think it hasn't worked, and then, your emotions will be all over the place. Like, there are so many different ways that the fat people's experience is never talked about, never shared, and never kind of validated, right? Because if you don't see it in the world or the experiences that you're seeing reflected back to you, then you think you're the only one, and it can feel so isolating. So sharing these experiences, sharing these tips, sharing these ideas, I think is such an important part of this work because it helps people see themselves in it and to understand why things might be happening and what they can do to increase the odds of things going well and for them to get better care and better support.
Mm. I'm so grateful for you. I really
Oh,
am
thank
so
you.
happy that you do this work. It's so, so necessary. And as we think about sharing more stories of things going well, I'm wondering if you could do that for us. If you could share maybe a story or two from a client or patient, that just gives us hope and lets us know that,
Yes.
it's
Oh,
absolutely
of
possible.
course. So one of my favorite clients was somebody that came to me maybe about 4 or 5 years ago now, and they had been denied care in the UK and they'd been trying to get pregnant for 8 years. So it'd been a long journey. And they came to do a consultation with me, and they had no hope. They didn't know what else to do, nowhere else to turn. They tried to get access. They couldn't get access from private clinics. They'd done everything. So we had this consultation, and we talked about all the different options that they could try, different clinics that they might want to talk to. But above all, I think the thing for them was like just being validated and heard and understood. And they went away, they were so happy. They just were like, this has been amazing. It's been the best experience of our lives. And we're just so grateful. And it was wonderful. And then I didn't hear from them for a while. And then they came back in touch maybe about 6 months later and joined one of my group programs. And they went to the clinic that we talked about in that first consultation. They went through the whole process. They found out that their fallopian tubes were blocked, so there was no way that they were ever going to get pregnant naturally, but or spontaneously. But no one had ever done that test for them, so they never knew that. The clinic they went to see found this out immediately. They got the IVF that they needed. They had a couple of rounds, and now they have their baby girl, and it is just the most magical thing because if that doctor had, if somebody had done that test and then they wouldn't have taken all that time for them to know what needed to happen and to get the support that they needed, but they needed that confidence that they were allowed to do that, that they were allowed to keep looking, that they were allowed to try and keep trying to get pregnant in bigger bodies. And it was such an honor to walk that path with them and to to support them in growing their family. And it's such a blessing to see like the pictures, and they send me updates, and it's just magical. But yeah, so that's one. Another one of my favorites is somebody that I just spoke to once. They told me that they'd gone to see a fertility clinic and the doctors had helped them, but then they were told once they'd had their eggs retrieved that they were not allowed to put them back until they'd lost weight. So the clinic had kind of almost led them along a little bit and said, yes, 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 we'll help you. Yes, we'll take your money, of course. And then said, oh, but now that we've taken your eggs, we're not going to help you until you've lost weight. And after that conversation, I was livid. I was so angry that they were blackmailing this couple into this totally arbitrary weight loss goal that they had not specified before they started treatment. It felt just so unethical and wrong and revolting. I was just like, hold me back because this is. So we wrote a letter. I spent a couple of hours researching really, really, really succinctly why this was unethical, what action they were going to take, even if we weren't really going to take it, like because this was like goes against this policy and that policy and this, I was very mad. They sent this letter and then they allowed them to do it, and I was so grateful. Like this was just and it worked, and it was, like magical. And it makes me mad that these things happen, but I'm very honored that I can help folks navigate that because of the experience that I have now, and like being able to read scientific papers. Like, oh my gosh, like, why should people have to be able to read scientific papers and argue as if they're in a court of law to be able to access care that they absolutely have every right to access? Like, it makes me so mad. But yeah, honored to do it. But people should not have to do this work, right?
They really shouldn't have to, but I'm grateful that you do it. I'm like a broken record. I'm just like, I'm grateful. But this is why you're an award-winning advocate, because this is what you do. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that you do it. So thank you.
Thank you. It feels sometimes like you're kind of, I don't know, speaking into the void, or like, you're knocking down one thing and then the next thing comes back up. It's like with these weight loss medications, it feels incessant now, and it feels like fat people are slowly being eradicated from the world, and they're making it easier. And that, like these big pharma companies are pushing their agenda of wanting to sell more medication and impact more people's lives. But we just got to keep doing what we know how to do, right? Like, we've just got to keep trucking. We've got to keep going. And even, every day I wake up and go, even if it just helps one person today, like, that is enough. And yeah, aren't we lucky to be working with such incredible people and to get to show up like this and to, yeah, meet each other? It's just, yeah, it is really special work.
Without a doubt, it absolutely is. So I'm wondering if there's just one thing that people would walk away knowing or feeling, what would you like that to be?
I think that they are not alone, that there are so many people navigating this. And although it feels really hard to talk about it, especially when you are expecting that shame or that judgment, like, there are so many other people navigating this too. And it's not your fault. You are not alone, and you are absolutely worthy of accessing any kind of support you need to get pregnant and to grow your family.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. So, where can people learn more about you and connect with you and connect with the beautiful community that you've built so that they can really feel that they're not alone and that they are fully supported?
So I am really active on Instagram. My handle is Fat Positive Fertility. And then all of the stuff that I share and all my resources, all of the ways that you can work with me are over on my website, which is nicolasalmon.co.uk.
Beautiful. I will link to all of that and more, because I know there were some additional resources that you had
Yes.
mentioned down in the description box below. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you. This has been such a joy. I'm so grateful for you.